Is 20 seconds. 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Okay. Rep your city. Let me see the mic. Rep your city. Give me the mic. Rep your city. I got you. Rep your city. I'm gonna tell you about mine. Rep your city.
It's time for us to go live, so rep your city. I really would appreciate if y'all roll with me. Feeling this music cause it makes me wanna step. And if you don't want to, then you lying to yourself. Cause every time we party, we gon' have fun. I don't know about you, but I'ma rep where I'm from.
Rep your city. Okay. Rep your city. Let me see the mic. Rep your city. Give me the mic. Rep your city.
Welcome to the RYC Live Show. This is Rep Your City Fresh Fridays, and I am your host for tonight, your homeboy Artistic, and we have our special guest that I'll be bringing in real soon. But before I do that, I like to just say happy Friday to everyone. It's a beautiful Friday evening. And, we come to you live, broadcasting live here in Chicago, the Windy City, bringing you the real hip hop and the real history. We want to encourage everyone to do so, if you can, at this time, to share this broadcast. Please do share the broadcast. The broadcast is being broadcast via Facebook and YouTube. The broadcast is being shared on my page and on the Rep Your City page, as well as the RYC Live page. And we're also broadcasting on YouTube. So you can also check us out live on YouTube, RYC Live on YouTube. If you are not able to watch the broadcast live at the moment, you can always go back and look at the playback at a later date, because these interviews and these shows will be archived on our pages. So with that being said, and please, if you have not done so already, please do subscribe to our channel, RYC Live on YouTube. You can follow us and on Facebook, and you can share again on Facebook, and also like us. Give us some feedback. Send us a comment. You can also send comments live during the streaming broadcast. We're going to have our guests on in just a moment. And if you have any questions during the interview, you can type them in. If you have any comments, you can type those in as well. And we're just going to have a good old time. Also, tonight we have a special event going on at the Chicago Hip Hop Heritage Museum, located at 4505 South Indiana. That's 4505 South Indiana. And it's going to kick off tonight at 7 o'clock. So that's right around the corner. So if you all are free and available, come on out. You can check out the museum while you do that. And you can also celebrate the closeout for the old exhibit that we had from last year, as we get ready to launch the new exhibit for 2022 in July. So with that being said, we have our special guest. This is a LadyGemStar, who has been very active in working with the women of Chicago hip hop. And I am looking so forward to hearing her story, to hear how she did this and who she did it with, and also what it took to actually make this possible. Because again, it's been a challenge to do some of the things in hip hop, and especially for women. So it's very, very good to see women get involved, having a platform to showcase their talent with whatever element that they practice, whether it was the MC part or the dancing part or the DJing or producing or even the graffiti art. Women have definitely gotten involved and running in this race right along with the men, and in some cases exceeding the men. And that's a wonderful thing. So we're going to hear it all come from LadyGemStar's story, coming from her mouth, And so without further ado, I'd like to welcome our special guest tonight, LadyGemStar.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, welcome to the show. There she is. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yes,
This is
yes.
I think this is a really cool platform that you're doing here to focus like
Thank
everyone
you.
that's part of the Chicago hip hop culture.
Yes, yes, yes. And thank you for taking out the time of your day and making this possible. It's, we just want to, give you your flowers while we can to show you how much we love all of what you have done and how much we love you as a person to even want to get involved in this thing, because this is not an easy thing to get involved. Hip hop is kind of tough. And sometimes if you don't have tough skin, you may not make it.
That's very true. And sometimes, and unfortunately, the women even have a tougher time because it's like we have to prove ourselves,
Yes.
double or triple
Yes.
than what the men have to. So
Yes. And I would like to talk a little bit about that as we go along in this interview, because again, I think people need to kind of look through the lens of a woman. If you're not a woman, you kind of got to look through the lens of a woman to kind of understand how tough that might have been, to make it, to get involved. And we're not talking about becoming a celebrity, but just becoming involved in the ins and out workings of what it does on a day-to-day basis to be in this game, in the hip hop game, whether you're practicing the elements or not. You could be doing stuff behind the scenes and it's still a lot of work.
no, yeah, I definitely know that. Because even though I did try to dabble a little bit on the front line, if you want to call it, that wasn't really my thing, to be like on the front line, to be on the stage and all of that. So I rather prefer to be more of a behind the scenes type of person.
Okay.
And that's how I kind of worked my way in, I guess, if you want to look at it that way.
Okay. So what I like to do on our show, this is what show that we do every Friday at usually it's at 8:00, but we're doing a special double feature. So we got the 6:00 show, and then we're gonna have another show at 8:00 with another guest. But what I like to do on Fresh Fridays is go all the way back to the beginning of when you started. And I know we kind of talked a little bit earlier. So tell the viewers that's tuning in. Some people are tuning in. Some people are making comments already. So that's great. We appreciate the love. But tell us, how did you get, well, let's go back to when you began to kind of connect to hip hop and start to fall in love with it. Tell us what that was like for you.
So yeah, like as I was explaining earlier, but like, of course, no one was, it was just us two. Mm-hmm. I'm like a music head first.
Okay.
And that's just, I guess it comes from my parents. They were always playing music at the house, and my parents being from other countries. The only way I was able to really access American music, which would be my music, because I was born in the States, was at that time through radio. So with radio, and not only just the regular radio stations, but a major part of me able to get into this whole thing was through college radio.
Okay.
Specifically WNUR, because I am a North Sider, born and raised on the North Side in Logan Square. And that was the station that I would pick up. And there was a couple other stations. I think it was like 88.7 for the Loyola station. Sometimes I would have hip hop, but NUR was very instrumental for me in discovering music. Because at that time in my neighborhood, a lot of the kids, most of them were listening to like house music or like freestyle. That was kind of like what people were listening to. And there's nothing wrong with that. I enjoy some of that stuff too. But what really captured me or pulled me more, so if you want to say it that way, was like hip hop and reggae.
Okay.
So those two genres, and even some rock, believe it or not. Some may know and some may not know.
Okay.
So those were kind of my beginnings. But I think with hip hop, because it is an American genre, and it was born in the States, just like I was. And we're kind of like parallel as far as how we've grown together in a sense. I guess maybe that's how I got much more tied into that per se, instead of some other genres. And then I also love the expression, because I was learning about things that I would have never learned about if it wasn't for hip hop. You know, whether it's people's different experiences in different neighborhoods, different ideologies, you know, when it comes to like spiritual beliefs or like other things, political things that, you know, things that they would not show you on the mainstream media in those times. So, and we didn't have the internet back in the 80s.
Yes.
So, you know, this was kind of like the hood report, if you want to, you know, call it that, because people were speaking their truth instead of somebody else speaking it for them. So I think with radio and, like I said, majority with college radio, because of course the regular radio, you could hear stuff like I mentioned before. Like one of my first favorite rap songs was the Boogie Boys' "Fly Girl." You
Fly
know,
girl,
Fly Girl. You know, like as a kid, and then, you know, you hear other stuff like Beastie Boys, "Fight for Your Right to Party," and you know, Brass Monkey and stuff like that. You know, Fat Boys. I guess some of the lighter, the girls, I forgot their name. Supersonic, JJ Fad.
JJ Fad, yes.
Yeah, stuff like that. You know, this is like the stuff that they would play on the regular radio as far as rap, which wasn't a lot anyway to begin with. But then the college radio, like that's where I got introduced to like NWA, KRS-One, you know, Public Enemy, like way more stuff, you know, that I could even reach from just listening to the regular radio. And then later on, MTV came about. And even though MTV wasn't really playing any rap or hip hop in the beginning, eventually, you know, it did start playing, you know, with the Yo MTV Raps. And then we had other independent, you know, like the Music Box channel that you would call up and order videos from. Yes. So that was another avenue. On top of that, we had the mixtapes. So just being at the record store, you know, checking out, going through records. Like one of my favorites, or some of my favorites, should I say, was like Reckless and Gramophone. And because, you know, you could kind of listen and check out and preview stuff before you buy. I mean, were so many other record stores too, but those two for me were like instrumental as far as me just discovering music. Because like I said, it wasn't like I'm the first generation born into this country from my parents. So it's not like I had like the older cousin or, you know, the older brother or my uncle or something, the cool uncle that was going to introduce me to this stuff, you know. And then of course, you know, I had movies like Breakin', you know, that definitely introduced me to the whole breakdancing stuff back in the 80s. You know, the kids in the neighborhood, we had, you know, the cardboard boxes flattened out, you know, and just try to emulate that. And just the fashion with the, you know, with the leather little straps and the spikes and all of that. So yeah, a lot of it was just kind of, you know, just radio and just whatever was around, you know, TV and radio, I guess. We didn't have internet.
Yes.
And for a person like me who didn't have like another person to introduce me, I only have two cousins here in the States, but we didn't grow close at all. And they were a little bit older than me. Like, I think they're like in their early 60s right now or late 50s. So it's like they were not into any of that because they were kind of like in the church and, you know, they didn't deal with any secular music per se.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just something you just kind of had to find on your own. So thank you to college radio, WNUR. You're the real MVP.
Now, what neighborhood did you grow up in back in the day?
Logan Square. I was born in Norwegian Hospital, which is in Humboldt Park. And I grew up in Logan Square. My uncle lived in Wicker Park. So I you know, between Logan Square was really where I grew up in. And of course, you know, Humboldt Park, Wicker Park. So yeah, that's my stomping grounds as far as growing up. And like I said, at that time, most of the people in this area, they were just listening. And I'm still here, by the way. Yeah, I'm still here despite the gentrification. I'm still here. but most of the people in my area, it was just a more of a house music or freestyle. And like once in a while, I would hear something like somebody would drive through bumping, LL Cool J, I Need Love out of nowhere,
Yes.
and it would catch my ear. And I'm like, oh, what's that? Something different.
Yes.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Nice. So what was it like coming up during that time in the 80s in your neighborhood, Logan Square? Because I know other artists from Logan Square, and from what I understand, I'm from the South Side, by the way, but from what I understand, the people on the North Side that was around in that area, in the Logan Square area during the time, that was a hotbed. That was a hot spot, So talk about your experience, if you have any around that time in the area that you can recall.
Yeah, well, I recall like, of course, like the break-in being shown at the Logan Theater. And I recall like, I mean, I was a little kid, I'm 46 now. I'll be 47 next month.
Okay.
So, I was like a little kid, and I would see the people standing in line to go see the movie. So that's how I was able to see like the clothing and stuff like that. And then also at the Eagle, they had the writer's bench going on. So I would see that going on. But also at that time, this was there was a lot of gang activity in this neighborhood as well. So it's kind of weird because it's like you have the gangs, and then you have a little splash of hip hop over here, but mostly everybody was like into house music. So I kind of had to like go on my own in a sense.
Okay.
To find what I felt was pulling me in.
Okay. So can and this is what I want to try to get clear, and this is not for just me, but for the viewers. So can you kind of drive us for what it was that started pulling you in Chicago, coming from out of your neighborhood? Was it something that you seen on the street? Was it a video? Was it a movie?
It was the music, the radio.
The radio.
It was the music because, like I mentioned in the beginning, I'm a music head first.
Okay.
So it was the music,
Okay.
and it led me to discover other genres of music because, of course, hip hop using sampling.
Yes.
So that was another thing that also hip hop helped me discover, and with that, I mean, it's just opening a whole door to a bunch of stuff.
Yes.
I mean, so it was the music. It was the music that attracted me. I liked the way that it sounded. I like, the poetry behind it, like people spitting the rhymes and like the messages, like, again, hearing things or hearing about things that you don't see on the mainstream news or the media or, and then, if it was like in a movie, sometimes it's a little candy coated or whatever. But I also love like the movies, just like that whole vibe, kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say like grimy, but it was kind of grimy. The old school New York trains and, just those visuals and how people made like something just coming out of nothing, and how that time was like where buildings were being burned and, like the Warriors and all of that, just see.
Now here's a question. Now since you said music, can you recall what might have been maybe the first or around the first song that you may have heard that you was just like, what is this? Or I like this.
It was the Fly Girl, the Boogie Boys.
Okay, so that was it. Okay, gotcha.
The Fly Girl.
That's it. That's great. And I think I agree with you. I think that music, because music touches our soul, and it makes you want to, it puts you in a place where you want to just vibe, even if you're not at a party or whatever. It kind of makes you feel good. You kind of, nod your head to the music, and in some cases, you may even want to dance.
Yeah.
And I mean, by us coming up in Chicago with house music over here, and then we had hip hop over here. So we had two movements working together at the same time, growing and developing in one city, And so I think, and I used to listen to, when I was coming up as a young teenager, I used to listen to a radio station here out in Oak Park called WBMX. And back then the Hot Mix 5 was like top notch, and what was so interesting is they was playing multiple genres of music all in their mixes, which kind of got my ear, and at the time I'm thinking, oh wait, this is how the song is made, not knowing that these songs are blended in together so well. you know. But I used to like, even though they were house DJs, they played a variety of music that, you know, you was kind of like, oh wow, okay, that's disco, okay, that's house, but this over here is electro, and that's hip hop, you know. So it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, wow, this is interesting, you know. So I appreciate that. And the Boogie Boys was, I used to love listening to them as well. You know, we had a lot of different great artists coming
Yeah.
from different eras, and as you know, as well as Chicago. So, you know, I think we had a well-rounded plate full of great things served to us to kind of, you know, move us in our mind and in our hearts. So that's great. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
even go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to ask. So now, did that motivate you to want to start getting at that point? Did that kind of take you down a path where it kind of wanted you to participate a little bit more in the culture?
Yeah. So, I mean, just with that, and then having the college radio stations like NUR, I mean, you just start hearing different sounds. I mean, because Boogie Boys, that's just one type of sound, but like hip hop has so many different styles and sounds and experiences that you hear through the music. And like another kind of like shocker for me that was, I was like, whoa, and I was blown away was when I heard like NWA for the first time.
Okay.
You know, and the song that it was Dope Man. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what? Like nobody, you know, because mostly people were talking about partying and stuff like that. And then here comes this song. I mean, yeah, it wasn't like the happiest song or the most positive, but at the same time, it's like, wow, I see this sometimes around in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know,
you can relate.
like, I could relate to a certain extent, you know.
Yes.
And then another one of my favorite songs too coming up, and now it's going back to New York, was KRS-One, Still Number One. That was like my favorite song for like the longest time.
Yes.
You know, and then from there, again, you just start kind of like, oh, you just keep discovering more and more and more, and just listening to the radio. And like, if I would hear a song that I liked and I missed the name, I would call it in. I would call in like, hey, what do you guys just play? What song was that? And then they would tell me. And then now I had something to go by that. Now I could go to the record store and look for that and go get the album, or, you know, what have you. And then of course, you know, if you couldn't afford it, you know, we're kids, you know, we didn't have a lot of money. You record this. You record it on your radio and your little boom box. And you have your own little mixtapes, you know, that you make for yourself off the.
Yeah. Now
I have plenty of those recorded somewhere, but they're there.
Okay. Now, how did you, when you go to the record store, you mentioned some of the record stores like Reckless. You know, I remember Reckless. We had a lot of them. We had Dr. Wax. We had
Dr.
Gramophone.
Wax, Micro Gramophone.
Yeah. So how did you, when you bought vinyl, did you take it home and play it on your, did you have a turntable at the time when you were getting these records?
Well, yeah, I actually, because my parents are into music, especially my dad, he's like, he has a huge vinyl collection. So I've always grown up around music equipment, you know, record player, reel-to-reel machines, you know, so it was easy for me. I'll just buy the record. And then my parents were cool. Like, they would allow people to, you know, sometimes parents, like, they don't want kids coming into their house, but my parents were like the opposite. They were like, oh, bring your friends here. And we would sit in the living room and use the stereo system that back in the day, you know, it was like a big stack with a record player. And then we would just hang out and play music and just goof around or whatever. And my parents didn't mind the noise or anything. My parents were never like, you know, the type of parents like, oh, turn that stuff down, or, you know, they love their own music. So I'm just blessed to have been raised in a household that has appreciation for music, period, where they were not even tripping about really what I was listening to.
Okay. So at that time when you would get vinyl, you could actually bring your vinyl records home and play them?
Yeah, playing on my dad's record player. And then, I mean, my first little record player as a kid was the Fisher Price, you know, that plastic one. Little suitcase. So, I mean, I guess just growing up and seeing that, being around that type of equipment, I always wanted, like, you know, when Christmas would come around or a birthday, you know, most kids, they want like, or especially little girls, they want a Barbie or something. Like, I was never into dolls. I was never into like Barbie or anything like that. You know, I would always like, oh, get me that record player. Oh, I want that purple boom box. Oh, I want the Walkman. I want, you know. So that was my thing, you know, like I wanted like mini stereo for my room. And my dad was all about it. because he's all about music. So he was like, okay, cool. Yeah, let's go get you. Make sure you get a good one, because that's, so it was cool. It was cool on that sense. So yeah, I have access to record players and of course tape players. Tapes were a little cheaper, I guess, I think, from what I could remember. So I would get a lot of tapes. Most of my stuff is on tape. I do have some vinyls from back then, but most of my stuff being as a kid or younger was the tapes. And I would get the mixtapes. And some of my favorites, like from Gramophone, were like the Chirac mixtapes.
Nice.
Those editions. Like my favorite one was the green one with the PNS on there. It was like the green one. I used to love. I mean, I wore that tape down. It was like one of my favorites from that edition. And like just other DJs. And I would even get like the Gangsta Boogie mixtape.
I remember those.
Gangsta Boogie, and then that's where I would get all like the darker side, like the psychodramas and Triple Darkness and like that type of stuff from those types of mixtapes. So yeah, it was, even though it was like Chicago hip hop, it still has very different little subgenres. I don't know if you want to call them that, but or different styles.
Yes.
Per se. To Chicago hip hop. It's not just one particular sound.
Okay. Now what grammar school did you go to, LadyGemStar?
I went to I don't know if I'm pronouncing it. Well, we used to pronounce it Gaithy, but it's actually pronounced Goethe. It's here in Logan Square.
Okay.
So I went there, and my 8 year, well, most of my 8 years, because I also went to 2 other different schools. I went to Peabody, that used to be in Wicker Park, which is now closed. And then before that, I actually started kindergarten in Florida because my family, we had moved to Florida like in the late 70s, like late 78, and we lived there through like 79, and then we came back to Chicago in the 80s, and then we moved into Logan Square. But before we moved into Logan Square, we stayed in Wicker Park with my uncle, and that's why I had already started kindergarten in Florida in Hialeah, and so I continued at Wicker Park. I was there for like a couple of months. Then we moved to Logan Square, and then I started at the Gaithy or Goethe.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. And then what high school did you go to?
Well, that's another story. I went to 3 different high schools. So I went to 3 different grammar schools for my first year, I guess, my kindergarten. And then high school, I went to 3 different high schools. There was like at the time, in the neighborhood, a lot of gang activity, a lot of teenage pregnancies, a lot of just stuff. And, my parents not being from this country originally, of course, they're like, high point paranoia. So they sent me to actually an all-girls school called Notre Dame for girls.
Oh, okay.
And I hated it because I had never experienced it. It was such a big culture shock for me, like, because that was an expensive school, and I would tell my parents, like, why are you guys doing this? Like, you can barely even afford this. But they're like, no, you have to be safe, and the gangs, and there's shootings. Like, my neighborhood school would have been like Clemente at that time, Clemente High School. And I think they were like one of the first schools that had like, or at least on the north side, that had like gun detectors put in and stuff like that. So, they were all like extra paranoid. So they sent me there. And of course, it was so expensive, they couldn't afford it. So they had to downgrade me, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. And I was so happy. I'm like, yes, I'm out of there. And so then I went to Josephinum for girls, another all-girls school, which is actually not too far from Clemente.
Okay.
And that school was another culture shock, because the first school, it was kind of like people that had money, uniforms and stuff like that. Then in the second school, it was like people who kind of wanted not to go to public school, but it was more affordable, like more people from the neighborhood. There were no uniforms there. They didn't even have a yearbook at that time.
Oh, wow.
That's how low budget they were. Like, they didn't have sports. Like, when I went to Notre Dame, I got into sports. I was into the volleyball team. I was into track. Like, they didn't have any of that at Josephinum at that time. I'm pretty sure it's changed since then. But at that time when I went, they didn't have that. And then after that, you know what I mean? Again, they couldn't afford that either.
Okay.
And I was like, yes, get me out of here. And I told them, I'm like, I've been going to public school all my life. It was just not my thing. I hated it. And then just me, just being, I was like, please, I need to go to a public school. And at that time, my brother had already started high school now. So because he's like a year younger than me, and he started going to Lincoln Park High School. Okay. So even though it was out of my district, he got approved because he went for theater, drama, because that's the thing that he was trying to do. So, I had good grades. I've always had good grades. So, we went there and talked to them, and because I had good grades and everything, and then I had a brother already in there, I got accepted into Lincoln Park. And that's the only high school I will ever claim and that I graduated from was Lincoln Park High School.
Okay. So what we're going to do at this moment, we're going to actually take a short commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to delve into some more of your history coming to, some of the events that you began to start doing. Okay. This has really been great. I'm really enjoying it. And thank everyone for tuning in. You're watching the RYC Live Show, and we have our special guest, LadyGemStar. So we'll be right back with some more to come after these messages.
If you want to see them, make sure they see you. Local to Global is a full-service film, video production, and marketing company that emphasizes on high-quality, brand-focused content to boost brand awareness through marketing, advertising, and broadcast media. Everyone has a story. Let us tell yours. We are Local to Global Production. If you want to see them, make sure they see you. Local to Global is a full-service film, video production, and marketing company that emphasizes on high-quality, brand-focused content to boost brand awareness through marketing, advertising, and broadcast media. Everyone has a story. Let us tell yours. We are Local to Global Production.
Are you tired of shopping for wigs in the back of a beauty supply store? At Random Glam Wigs and Accessories, we give wig lovers the shopping experience they deserve. Personal attention in a chic boutique atmosphere. Fabulous wigs and unique accessories, all at affordable prices. Try on as many wigs as you like. Our friendly glam consultants will be happy to help you find the perfect look to fit your lifestyle. Be a glamazon and discover Random Glam Wigs and Accessories. We are conveniently located at 7207 South Exchange Avenue in the historic South Shore District. Shop where you're appreciated and get the personal attention you deserve. Visit us online at randomglam.com. Random Glam Wigs and Accessories, 7207 South Exchange Avenue.
Welcome back to the RYC Live Show. I am your host for tonight, Artistic, and we have our special guest, LadyGemStar. So let's talk about some of these events now. Chicago. I remember, and I'm gonna go back to the '80s, but I remember in the early '80s, between '84 and '86. There was a traveling tour called the Fresh Fest, and it had break dancers, it had the rappers, and we went to one of the events when it first came to Chicago at the UIC Pavilion, and it had Run DMC, Curtis Blow, Fat Boys, Houdini, all these groups that were popular during the '80s, And I mean, it was just an explosion. You know, people were breakdancing. You know, we were writing on stuff as the graffiti writers, and it was a tour of hip hop. You know, and it went from different cities all around America. And I think that was when it really, at that time, it kind of really exposed the world to what hip hop culture was really about. And that was just one venue at the UIC Pavilion, but there were many other venues that began to showcase hip hop, not so much on a stadium stage, but you know, locally in smaller clubs and stuff like that. So, what was your first club that you kind of began to get involved in, and going back into the hosting? Because again, you actually got involved in participating in this at events.
Well, yeah, you know, like in the 90s, I was kind of like a shy person. Didn't really go out much like that. You know, I also had strict parents, so unfortunately, I missed a lot of stuff like in the early 90s, unless it was like something at Columbia, because I did attend Columbia College.
Okay.
And they always had like hip hop stuff going on at the Hoken Center.
Okay.
And a lot of people that are involved with Chicago hip hop actually are alumni of Columbia College. So,
yes.
So I didn't really start going out per se. Like my first like hip hop concert was a big concert. It wasn't like a small,
okay,
like, you know, like local type of party. And that was Cypress Hill at the Aragon
nice.
with House of Pain and Hooligans and Funk Dubious, and that was in like in '93.
Yes.
So that was my first like real like hip hop concert. Of course, later on, like local parties came about. Like there was this place on Western, off of Western and Diversity, used to be called Avenues.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody remembers that.
Okay.
But they would have like hip hop stuff there. There was another place like right off of North Avenue in like Rockwell. It was kind of like some type of warehouse or something, and they would have like hip hop parties in there, like underground parties. If anybody remembers, like you would have to go up the stairs. It was like right off of North Avenue and like Rockwell.
Okay.
So yeah, and a lot of these things are like just like house parties, you know, that people would throw, and I would find out, you know, going to Columbia and at the Hoken, people would like leave little flyers and stuff laying around, and I went to like different random parties, like at Hyde Park. I went to a few parties there. I remember I went to another party another time in Waukegan, and DJ PNS was actually spinning at that one. And these were all like house parties. So I didn't really get into like the actual venues like that until a later date, you know. Once I started getting older and I turned 21 and I was a little bit more free. And yeah, so unfortunately I did miss a lot of those key points, which I do know about and I may have heard of, but I couldn't attend them.
Yes.
I couldn't attend them at that time. So I think that one of the nights that actually stuck out for me was like the Blue Groove Lounge, but it was one and moved to the Double Door because now it's in my neighborhood.
Yes.
So that I was like, that was awesome. I used to love going there. I was always there every single time, Monday night. I never missed it. And I know it didn't start there, but that was my start.
Yes.
And then from there, you know, just random things. And mostly in this, my area, the North Side area, which is the Wicker Park area at that time, it was kind of a lot of hip hop stuff going on. There was the, I can't think of that, the bookstore that was right there on the corner.
Lit X.
The was it like you go downstairs and they had the bookstore.
Yep, that was Literary Explosion.
Yeah, so it was that there on the corner of Milwaukee and North Avenue, and then you know later on you had spots like the Blue Note or the Note that I would always go to. The original Lava Lounge that used to be on Damon and
Nice.
Chicago. And I know later on, you know, the Dark Room, Sub T, of course. And then just like random, like I said, random underground parties for the most part, you know.
Shout out to my man, DJ Jesse De La Pena.
Oh, yeah. Jesse was very instrumental in my like Chicago hip hop, I guess, introduction, if you want to say, as far to like events and things like that. Because off of those events, then you find out about other events.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then I kind of was like, I guess a hiatus, like, you know, for some time period, for whatever reason, you know, life, whatever. So I kind of like disappeared, but I was still active in my own ways. Just every time hanging out, just freestyling for fun, dabbling, with turntables and things like that.
Okay.
At the house with friends, because I grew up, a lot of friends of mine were either musicians, where they were in a rock band, or trying to do some hip hop stuff, or what have you. And then I kind of started dabbling into it my own self, and I had some friends, they were producing stuff, and we were freestyle just for fun. And then there was one time I actually was like, oh man, I want to record it. I wrote this rhyme, and I was like, man, I want to record this to one of my friends. And he's like, well, I got all these beats. So he threw like, I don't know, like 20 beats at me. And I kind of went through them, and I'm like, oh, let's do this one. And he was like, well, I want to spit on verse on that. So we recorded. And then another friend of mine, SM, shout out to him. He was like, hey, have you heard of MySpace music? Are you on MySpace? And this was like in 2007, late 2006, early 2007. He was like, have you heard of MySpace? And I'm like, no, because I didn't even have a computer either.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't have a computer until like way later.
Okay.
But so he's like, yeah. So I would hang out with him and my other friend, Detour. And then they're like, oh, we're going to set you up on MySpace. And, oh, you got music, you should put it up. So they created me a MySpace music page. So I started off kind of like that, basically kind of getting more involved in that sense. And at that time I was going, my name Lady Gem originally, because, lady for the feminine, and then Gem because I'm a Gemini. That's my zodiac sign. Okay. And also Gem because like one of a kind. But then my friend SM, he was like, no, you need to add something else to that. There's other Lady Gems out here. You don't want that. You should add Star because you're a star. Wow. So that's how that name came about, LadyGemStar. So shout out to SM again.
Shout out to SM.
Yeah, SM, man. And he was part of Buck Crew back in the South Side.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
nice.
So he also MCs, and he was tagging and breaking and stuff like that. So, nice. And then we actually met through reggae, which is another side of how I even came involved with hosting hip hop, was actually through reggae, which is in a weird way. But I'll get to that shortly.
Okay.
So yeah, I put up a MySpace music page, LadyGemStar. I had 3 songs on there. And then how I started with the hosting is because, again, I was always supporting, going to like different nights, different venues, and people would always see me out. My face started becoming familiar. Any like dope hip hop stuff, I was there. And, of course, also the other side was I was also at all the reggae stuff, a lot of the reggae stuff that was going on, because I love reggae as well. And also shout out to WNUR, who put me onto so much reggae as well. So NUR was like my go-to. That was like my internet back in the day. So, a friend of mine who's a reggae artist, goes by Fada Dugu. He invited me to, to a friend's house where he was working, or a producer. And he's like, yeah, I'm about to record this song, and we're going to record the video at the Dark Room, because there was a reggae night at Dark Room on Tuesdays with DJ Redlocks and DJ General Pac-Man. So he's like, yeah, we're going to record. And I would always be there. So Tuesday I would go to Dark Room, and then I would leave, and then I would go to Sub T. Okay. So I was always like everywhere, like trying to be everywhere at the same time. And then we also had the Lava Lounge. So it was a lot of stuff going on at that time. And so, yeah, as we're waiting for his producer to come back, because he had to step out for a second, him and I, we start talking, and he was like, yeah, do you do anything? Because he's always seeing me at all these events and things like that. So he's like, do you do anything with music? Do you like sing or anything? And I was like, no, I do dabble a little rapping. And he was like, oh, really? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, oh, that's how I started. I started with hip hop. And I never imagined that, because I've always known him as a reggae artist. Mm-hmm. So he started spitting a rhyme in the car, and I was like, oh, and then he was like, go ahead, you spit something. And, I did a little something. And he was like, do you have any music or anything? And I was like, oh, I'm just kind of playing around with it. I have a MySpace music, but there's only like a few songs on there. And he was like, let me check it out. So he heard one song on there that at that time, I think I only had one song. And he really liked it. And he was like, that's it. He was like, you're opening up for us at the dark room. And I'm like, what? I've never performed. I don't even have an album. Nobody knows me. He was like, it doesn't matter. I know you. Let's go. You're going to be performing before I go on. And we do the video shoot for Fake Ass Rastas.
Okay.
So that was the name of the video that he shot that day at the dark room. So the house was packed, all the reggae heads, it was there. And then with Chicago, it's always some type of weird segregation, whether it's neighborhood wise or, music wise or whatever. There are certain people that only knew me from like the hip hop events. There was only people that only knew me from the reggae events. So this was a reggae event. And here I am doing a hip hop song, just one song opening for a reggae artist that's going to shoot a video that day. Uh-huh. So, of course, he had the house packed. And I was like, oh, man, this is crazy. But I did it. And everyone was shocked because a lot of the reggae people, they didn't know how much I was into hip hop.
Okay.
Because they didn't go to hip hop events.
Yes.
So even though there are some that kind of blend into both, they kind of go to both. So everyone was like, wow, you should do this. And everybody gave me props and everything. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. It was a great experience.
That's what's up.
So that was my first time performing anything. And it was like one song. And then after that, again, just keep supporting the events that were happening at the dark room. General Pac-Man, he had an event that he was going to host working with After School Matters program. And it was called Hip Hop for the Arts. So he was like, man, a lot of people, like you're in here, you out here, would you be interested in hosting this event for me? And I'm like, I've never done that. He was like, you could do it. Come on, let's go. So I was like, okay, I guess. So a lot of this stuff I was kind of like just being thrown into it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, but he's like, yeah, I kind of need your help since you know a lot of people in the hip hop community. And this is going to be Hip Hop for the Arts. Because he's generally more of a house DJ. He was working like with Trax Records. And he's also a video DJ. And then he would also spin some hip hop and then some dancehall reggae. Okay. Like when he would spin with DJ Redlocks, which is a reggae DJ, but he also produces hip hop as well. So yeah, we kind of all meshed together.
Nice.
So he was like, yeah, I kind of want you to also participate in creating the event. So he wanted artists to be part of the event. So I reached out to Slang, Nick Salsa, and then Joel Maxime, who I went to Columbia with, and that's how I met him. And so they were the featured artists. They were doing live art, and all the proceeds and everything were going to go towards the After School Matters. And that was the first time I hosted, and that was in 2008 in January.
Nice.
So that was the first time I hosted an event. And then he kind of liked what I did from there. And, later on, he added me onto another event that he kind of started doing. Redlocks couldn't do the reggae stuff anymore, at that time. So the night was just left up to Pac-Man, the General Pac-Man. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to switch it up to hip hop, but I want to have a theme night. So he created a night called Hip Hop Uncut, where we would have, since he was a video DJ, we would do a theme night. So like we had a Native Tongues night. We had a Wu-Tang night where it was like all Wu-Tang videos, the Native Tongues night, Tribe videos, De La Soul videos, things like that. Just different nights. And then we also, some of the other months, we would also incorporate live performances. So that was the theme of the night. And then the DJs that would constantly rotate through there were like Rude One, DJ Etiquette, and DJ True. Okay. And then we would have some other guest DJs. So, but that, before I get to that part, I actually performed another time, again, thanks to SM, because he kind of threw me. SP1 used to have the E event at the dark room.
Okay.
And SM was, I think he performed with as one of those E events with SP1. And SP1 used to do, once in a while, he would do a ladies' night. And he was actually doing, the ladies' night. And this was in 2008. And I went to some event that SP1 was doing. I forgot what spot, but SM was like, oh, this is LadyGemStar. You need to put her on. And, because he was kind of, I don't know, like he should be my manager, I guess. and SP1 was like, oh, yeah, what do you do? Or whatever. So he was like, oh, she spits. I'm like, dude, like, calm down. Like, I don't even have material like that. But SP1 took a chance and he put me on the bill. And it
Oh,
was awesome
wow.
because AM PM was spinning. Amina performed, Ange 13, Annihilation, Lady Flipside. Lady Flipside was doing live art, and then I also performed. And I was like, oh man, I'm like the newbie, So kind of I was like, okay, like I'm new, but I'm really not new. It was kind of like weird. I'm new school, but I'm also old school. But shout outs to SP1 as well.
Shout out to SP.
He also tried to also focus some events on the ladies,
Yes.
which was awesome. So I had that experience. So that was my second time performing, actually.
Nice.
And that was at the dark room again. So I have a lot of history at the dark room. Shout out to dark room. But yeah, like I was saying, the whole hosting then later on came about with General Pac-Man and the night Hip Hop Uncut live that we had. So some months it was be video theme nights. Other nights it would be live performances. And then of course we would have the DJ. So I started hosting there, also dabbling a little bit with graphic design. I even performed for a third time there as well. Because I kind of still was dabbling a little bit in the rap, here and there. And I was friends with some of the guys from Rubber Room. And they had started putting their own project together with Spo, Lumba, and Sudan, which was another guy that came in later. He wasn't part of Rubber Room, but Lumba was part of Rubber Room, and so was Spo or SPO, however people want to say it. But he was trying to put together his own project called Windy Whoosh Records, his own label. And I actually spit a flow on, a verse on one of their songs, and called Hawk City, produced by Sean Dervis. Shout out to Sean Dervis. And so they were part of one of those events, the Hip Hop Uncut events, Wendy Whoosh Rec, which was featuring those guys. They had their own material going on. But then I also performed with them the song that I did with them as well. So that was my third time performing.
Okay.
But it just got a little too like, I kind of preferred the hosting part of it.
Right.
I just didn't feel like that was me, like being front stage all the time, on the mic all the time like that, like as an artist. And so I kind of just focused on the hosting. So after that, I just did the hosting for Hip Hop Uncut Live. And that was from 2008. It started in March of 2008, and it went all the way through October of 2009.
Okay.
So
excellent.
That's when that ended.
That's excellent. Now let's do this because we got some comments have been coming in, and I want to share some of these comments that's coming in from some of the guests. So we have Alicia Renee. She says, yes, a real queen in the house.
Oh, that's my girl, Alyssia.
Yeah, Alicia checking in. Okay,
she's an awesome artist too.
Thank you. Okay, and then we got Tego One checking in. He says, peace, queen.
Oh, what's up, Tego?
And then we got our homeboy Nino checking all the way in from Arizona. He says, big ups.
Oh, what's up, Nino?
We got Show Body checking in. He says, salute, queen. Great show.
Oh, what's up? What's up?
And then we got Dante checking in. He says, a lot of stuff went down at Hoken House and the Film Road Center. Yeah.
Yes. A lot of stuff, man. I even have an old poster from the Hoken with Rubber Room performed there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
And actually Metamo signed it, and I brought it to him one time, and he was like, wow, I can't believe you have this. And I still have it. I have it framed and everything.
Nice.
From the Hoken.
Okay, and here's a couple of different clubs that Dante mentioned. So that's really cool.
Oh yeah, Mad Bar. Oh, I remember Mad Bar. I actually saw oh my God, Humpty Dump. I can't think of his name right now.
Oh, is that from Digital Underground?
Digital Underground, yeah. They had like an out of nowhere low key show at Mad Bar, like in the backyard or something, out of nowhere one time. It was so awesome.
Oh, we got DJ V8 checking in. He says, I still love her.
Oh man, yeah, he's always supported I Still Love Her, man.
Okay, and here's someone else checking in. Alexandria Cross. She says, is somebody taking notes? She's giving away all the gems.
Oh, that's our girl Alex. What's up, Alex?
Shout out to Alex. Okay, and then we got Alicia checking in again. She says, greetings from New Orleans. Who are your top 5 Chicago hip hop artists?
All right. Well, there's quite a few, but like E.C. Illa was one of my favorites from back in the day, you know. Ange 13, because she always held it down for the ladies. And she was greatly involved with like everything that was going on that was hip hop. Like
Yeah.
I would always see Ange all the time. Like that's one person that I could remember as far back seeing always being involved. I even remember calling her because on that mixtape, the Chicago Rocks mixtape, I think it was her number on there.
Yeah.
And I was trying to get another copy and they didn't have it anymore at Gramophone. And I called that number and she was like, who is this? And I'm like, oh, you know. Hey, I love Edge, man. That's my girl.
Shout out to Edge 13.
Yeah, another mixtape that was one of my favorites back there was from Matlock. He had this mixtape called Matlock and an Orange Julius. And I talked to him about that already back, you know, before. So those are like some of the local cats that I know, you know, Rubber Room, of course, and not just because they're my friends, but they just had a whole different sound than anybody.
Yes.
Like they were on their own wave. And you know, and you know, and then like some of the bigger artists, of course, like Common and of course Kanye and stuff like that. I think before we get on the broadcast, I mentioned that I also liked TSP, and I met one of the cats. I used to work at Blockbuster up on the north side, like what I call the north side, because I never considered myself the north side.
Okay.
To me, the north side, I was like way up there, and I used to work at the Blockbuster that was at Western and Toohey. So to me, that was the north side, but that's called the North Pole. I guess.
Okay.
They call it the North Pole. But yeah, like one of the cats, he used to come through, you know, at that store, and then he gave me his mixtape. He was like, "Oh, you're into hip hop. You should check this out." So, yeah, but I think as far as my favorites like that, I would say E.C. Illa, Ange, you know, Common, Matlock, of course, yeah, you know, and Rubber Room.
Nice, very nice. Okay, now let's get into, because we you know, it's so much that we could talk about, but we definitely want to get into you hosting the event called I Still Love Her.
Yes.
So tell us the introduction to how that all started, and you know, share the story behind it.
All right. So after the Hip Hop Uncut ended in 2009, I kind of just took a break. You know, wasn't really doing anything. And just my regular stuff, you know, attending shows, events, and things like that. Oh, that's my cousin. Shout out to my cousin.
Shout out to Erica.
And so yeah, I was trying to go to a Wu-Tang show in January of it was like January 8th. I remember everything. I have a good memory, believe it or not. January 8th, 2011. So there was a Wu-Tang show at the Congress Theater, and you know, I was originally going to buy a ticket, but then I got a comp ticket and I was like, all right, whatever. So we're all waiting in line, a bunch of people, hours. It was really cold, like below zero. This is January in Chicago. You know how it is.
Yes.
And then just wait there, and then we can't get in.
Oh, wow.
Because they went over capacity.
Wow.
So there were so many comp tickets given out that not taking in consideration the capacity of the event, or the venue, should I say, plus the artist, which was Wu-Tang. I mean, come on, like people are going to want to go to that.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we didn't get in. And as I started walking back home, because I don't live too far from the Congress Theater, I bump into a couple of friends, Sharkula and J Mill.
Yes.
Jay. And they were with Alyssia. Now, I had met Alyssia at one of the Hip Hop Uncut events, because she had went there with Sharkula, because at that time she did a video for him. She was into skateboarding and punk rock, but then she was also into hip hop and breaking, B-girl. So she was kind of like and she was with them, and we're walking back. We're all disappointed. We can't get into this Wu-Tang show. And you know, Jay and Thig, they've been to my crib, you know, and at my crib, I got a setup. I got tables, I got mics, you know, again, because we all dabble and, you know, we just have fun with it. I was like, well, they're like, what are we going to do now? I'm like, well, we could just come to the crib. We'll just have our own show then. You know, I got tables, I got decks, I got mics, whatever, let's go. And so, you know, we picked up a little something at the liquor store, came to the crib. And, you know, that was the first time Alyssia had ever been to my house. Like I said, I met her back in 2009, and then I didn't see her all that time until 2011. And this is January. And then, you know, she was just like, wow, can I get on the tables? And because she also kind of dabbled with some DJing as well on her own and some production. So, you know, we kind of started building, and she was like, man, it wouldn't be dope if it was a night that really focused on like women in hip hop in Chicago. Cause she's like, I don't really see that. So I was like, yo, there's some nights here and there, you know, like the SP1 night,
Right.
you know, that he would do here and there. And I'm like, yeah, that would be dope. And she was like, well, I have access to a venue that just opened up, but I don't know anyone, because she's originally from Flint, Michigan.
Okay.
So she's like, I don't really know a lot of people like that. You know, she knew Thig because she worked with him on some of his music videos, like breakdancing in the background or whatever, skateboarding. And I'm like, well, I know a lot of people, you know, I know all the people.
Yeah.
So she was like, okay, well, like, do you want to do a night? Let's do a night. So that's how that started, really, literally just feeling like, man, wouldn't it be dope if there was a night like this where like females in hip hop could do their thing, you know? And so yeah, she was like, yeah, it's this club, this new club is called the Ultra Lounge. It's actually not too far from the Congress. It's on Milwaukee Avenue. And I'm like, Ultra Lounge, I've never heard of that. And I'm like, where's that place at? And she's like, it's right there. It's right there. So we finally go to the meeting, and it ends up being Teeny Martini, or what used to be called Teeny Martini.
Okay.
I'm like, oh no, Teeny Martini. They weren't really known for like real like hip hop events based on hip hop culture. Yeah, they had some rap events, and they had some dancehall reggae events, and some other types of events that they would hold. But and the guy right off the bat at the time, the owner, by the way, that doesn't exist anymore, that venue, and now it's like a restaurant. But
okay,
at the time, the owner, he was kind of trying to get away, or trying to change the image, you know, of Teeny Martini, because they had so many issues, you know, problems going on there. And as soon as he heard that we wanted to do a hip hop night, he was like, oh, he was kind of hesitant. He didn't want to do it because he's like, I don't want any drama. I've been having drama with all these rap nights and stuff like that. And it's like, no. So I kind of had to break it down to him. Like, this is like an actual hip hop culture event. It's not just rapping and you know, we're going to feature like all the elements, like kind of in a way, kind of school him, you know, to what hip hop really is, you know? And so he took a chance. He was like, okay, hopefully nothing goes wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean? He was really on that type of attitude with us.
Yeah.
Like, well, whatever, dude. I'm not going to bring any drama, because even though I didn't do Darkroom after 2009, I still kind of was doing like some underground parties here and there on my own. You know, I did some like loft parties, like after parties for like the Capleton show and stuff like that. You know, I was just doing other random stuff, even though I wasn't active like that. So I was doing like, and I'm like, man, all my parties, they're packed, and there's never been any drama. So I know it's not going to be plus. Like the real hip hop heads, we're not about drama.
Yes.
We're about, you know, just sharing the experience and enjoying the culture.
Yes.
So boom, the event happened, and I mean, he was just like, wow. I mean, the house was packed. Like all the legends were in the building, you know, like
that's what's up.
Heckle was there. Rest in peace to Heckle. I mean, anybody that you could name, like everybody was there. The graph people, the graffiti people were there. The B-boys was there, B-girls and everything. So that's how it started. And the hardest part for me at that time, because, you know, I, of course, familiar with some of the MCs, me going to events and stuff like that. That's how, you know, before the internet, before the social medias, you did your networking, actually attending the events, actually supporting these people. And they start seeing your face everywhere. So, you know, you start building with them, becoming friends. And you know, that's how I knew the people, or had access to the people. This is way before social media.
Yes.
So it's like you had to kind of put in your work, you know, your work in the scene. You know, it's not like now where people, you know, they just, I don't know, pay something, and so their posts keep getting posted a million times. It wasn't like that back in the day.
Yeah.
So the only hard thing that I had in the very first I Still Love H.E.R, or the hardest part for me, was the female DJ. Because as far as like women DJs that I knew that would spin hip hop, the main one that came to mind, of course, was DJ AM/PM. But then after that, I wasn't really familiar with other women DJs. I mean, yeah, I was friends with women DJs like DJ Bumblebee, but she's a drum and bass DJ. Shout out to Bumblebee. She's out in Germany now.
Nice.
But, you know, and then just people that would kind of dabble, but like other women DJs, they would mostly spin like house music, you know, or like there was like DJ Psycho Bitch that was spinning like industrial music. So yeah, I was seeing women DJs out here, but not many that were really focused into hip hop like that, with the exception of AM/PM and Mary Jane, because they actually had a night at Subterranean back in the day. I don't know if anybody knows of Mary Jane and DJ AM/PM. Look at the sunlight's coming in.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to send a shout out to my Aunt Kathy. I know she's tuning in, sending some love out to us on the show here. And also shout out to my man Wally, who just checked in from the legendary Sneak Attack rap group here in Chicago. So shout out, and all the other viewers that's tuning in that I may not be able to get a chance to see at the moment. But let's do this. I would like to share the video that you have that to kind of give everybody a little overview. And I'm going to like just play the whole thing. For those that was not or didn't get a chance to participate at the event during the time that you were doing it and your team, this video will kind of give them some insight. Again, shout out to my band brother, DJ Tego Ones, and again, Dante, you know, thank y'all and everyone else for tuning in and sharing and giving us comments and the love and everything. So yeah, you're watching the RYC Live Show. So let's check this video out. I'm going to go ahead and play this right now, y'all. Enjoy. Let me take this off real quick. There we go. And let's go ahead and play this.
I see you out in the clubs and low key, she be frontin'. Craving acidity and being rude and acting like it's nothing. Put her on blast at events. Big girls express her existence. I find my head is like chill in my element. They dreaming about her coming back, knowing that she never left. Doing out the negative attributes, I see the beauty in her innocence. You only live once, so you gotta represent. Besides the connections vanish, but the feelings come back. See, I still love her, so my feelings relapse. No need for the ego, maybe I'm attached. Maybe it's lifestyle that I'm concerned. The new facts is the word on the street said R.I.P. And I just knew it was a myth, cause I just felt her presence and I just seen her in her four elements. So this is where we become arrogant. Breaking and seeing, DJing the grass, she's evident. Yes.
Well, I'm kick-ass Alyssia. My name's LadyGemStar, and we are I Still Love H.E.R. For those who's never been here, we do this once a month. It's a showcase for ladies in hip-hop, all elements of hip-hop, as you can see. Give it up for DJ Mama Bear.
Let me break it down how it all began. In the go on a cold night, 20 below. No,
we got our resident DJ, Rated R.
Mics and tables, we wrecked it. Dreams and wishful thoughts, we erected. Cause we still respect it. And felt the vibe nice. Oh, yes, we've got to do it right.
We're also celebrating Step Skill's birthday. So all the artwork is by Step Skills.
Intelligent and elegant, classy with the feminine, still relevant. Cause she never went. Stay true to the roots. Where the rocket wax mics and kicks.
I am here to bring you music. I know your ears are not used to it. The last few years, you have been bamboozled by these slackers in the class that misrepresent the new school. Deja Cuckoo, the one who flew over the cuckoos. Next live from the Midwest. Known to rep for the breastises. Oh yes, this is a formal introduction to the best kept secret.
We also got Cache Phoenix.
Lyrically, I call headache, concussion. Spin the wheel and drive, especially if you feel that rushing. I'm the blueprint. Cache Phoenix, new construction. When they ask you who's the one, I am the topic of discussion.
Give it up for all the B-boys and the B-girls in the building holding down the floor tonight.
Yes, y'all, and you don't stop. To my B-girls, and you don't stop. All my DJs, and you don't stop. All my graph heads, and you don't stop. Yes, y'all, and you don't stop. All my MCs, and you don't stop. Come on.
Yeah. That was excellent. Appreciate that. Yeah, I got to give it up. That was excellent. Very, very nice, well-rounded visual of what it was like during the time it was happening, and good representation of the women. Shout out.
Yeah, that was definitely brought back a lot of memories. It was always a fun time, and like I said, it started at that place, Ultra Lounge, aka used to be Teeny Martini. But after 3 events, we decided it was time to move on, because it wasn't really like, again, a good fit. That actually originally was supposed to be one night only, and it turned out into a monthly thing.
Now, what year was the first one when it launched?
In 2011, February of 2011.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so literally a month after Alyssia and I reconnected.
Gotcha.
So we just kind of went into it.
And it went from 2011 to what year?
It went to, I have notes here.
Okay.
Up to 2014.
2014. Okay.
Yeah. So we had a solid, it went from January 2011 all the way until July of 2014.
Nice.
And the first 3 events were there, and then we moved it. We just felt like, because of the crowd size and just, we just wanted it to be at a location that was more friendly to hip hop, or more of a historical for hip hop and events and things like that. So at that time, my choices were Darkroom, because I had so much history with Darkroom, and it has such an awesome stage and sound system there, and it was a big place. So I was like, okay, Darkroom would be a nice spot. The only downside is that I also wanted to include art, and I wanted the art to be displayed for the whole month, not just for the night of the event.
Right.
So that was one of the things that I wanted to do. And my other choice was, of course, Sub T. I mean, Sub T has been known for hip hop. It's had the longest running open mic night at Sub T. And so I went ahead and sent up a proposal, like, hey, this is what we're trying to do. This is what we've done, blah, blah, blah. And I got it. And at that time, my friend Joel Maxime, who was also part of that other, the first time I was hosting at the Darkroom, he was one of the artists featured. So at that time, he was the curator for the art that was displayed at Sub T. And I told him, I'm like, hey, I'm about to start doing this thing or whatever. And he was like, oh, good. He's like, I'm tired of doing the curating. Go ahead, take it. It's all yours. And I'll let them know. So that gave us access to the walls at Sub T. So all the art would stay up for the whole month. So if anybody's familiar with the I Still Love H.E.R flyers, and you could check them out online if you didn't see them in person, one side was always for the artist that was going to be featured at that event, the visual artist. So they would do a piece that would say I Still Love H.E.R, and I would take one side of the flyer, and then the other side, I would piggyback off of their artwork and then do the side with the information on the event, which would include, everybody's names, the date, and so forth and so on. So that also kind of gave people like a little keepsake, and which people do have like at home. Like sometimes I go to random houses and they'll have it off a cool flyer, like on the fridge, and it's like an I Still Love H.E.R flyer, because it's little art pieces.
Yes. Yes.
And then the artists got a chance to display their art at a place like Sub T, which is always having an event, always something going on. So it gave those artists an exposure as well.
Yes.
And a chance to, if they even wanted to sell their art, they could sell their art from there.
That's nice.
So it was kind of like a win-win for everyone. And it also created a networking environment for other women, because like I said, before you showed the video, one of the hardest parts for me was finding the women DJs that were spinning hip hop.
Okay.
And like I said, outside of like DJ AM/PM and Mary Jane, I was like, man, who else? And like I said, I had a friend. So the first I Still Love H.E.R had DJ Bumblebee, which she's normally a drum and bass DJ, but I was like, I need another DJ, because I had just met DJ Tuss. And she had spun at one of Rude One's night at the Empire. They used to have a night called Elementary.
Okay.
And she had just started spinning and doing stuff. And then I saw her there and I'm like, oh, and she was spinning hip hop. So I was like, okay, cool, So I asked her to, if she wanted to be a part of it. And then, so those were like the first DJ Tuss, and then DJ Bumblebee, which is originally a drum and bass DJ. And she also likes hip hop, but her thing is drum and bass. So she's like, man, she only spins vinyl, or used to spin vinyl at that time, that she was strictly vinyl. And she's like, I would totally spin for you, but I don't have that many records. And I'm like, I got records. Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah, between her and I kind of like brought out some of my records, and I'm like, here's the must-haves. Here, like the more underground, obscure stuff that only the real heads are gonna be like, oh. And then here's the stuff that everybody knows that'll get the party going. And then from there, she listened to everything, and she picked what she liked, and boom, she did a great job, because she still has that ear for music. It's at the end of the day, it comes to the music. And then from there, I met DJ Rated R, because she was doing a night. There's this DJ called DJ Sean T. He used to have a ladies' night at Ultra Lounge, Lipstick on the Mic, it was called. He would feature female rappers. And she was spinning there one day. And one day I went there because anything that had to do with like hip hop or women in hip hop, I would go and I would promote. Because I would actually print flyers. I was still old school like that, printing flyers. I'm just not depending on social media.
Yes. So
I would lace the whole neighborhood with flyers, posters, going to different businesses, things that are relevant to women and to hip hop. So even like clothing stores at, women clothing store, I would throw the I Still Love H.E.R poster up in there if I could, the flyers and all of that. And I went to the Lipstick on the Mic night that DJ Sean T used to have over there. And that's where I met DJ Rated R. And I loved what she was spinning, because she's like spinning like that. I'm like, this is what we need.
Right.
So, she got invited to do I Still Love H.E.R, and we loved her. And then Tuss moved on to do her own thing. She started doing her own nights and stuff like that. So it left us with like, okay, we need like a resident DJ that's going to be really part of this whole thing, like from beginning to end. And it ended up being DJ Rated R.
Okay.
So she was our resident DJ. And then so we would have her every single show, and then we would have a guest DJ come in.
Okay.
And then, people started coming out the woodwork.
Yeah. Now, so this kind of cultivated a whole business or entrepreneur spirit. And as a woman, Lady GemStar, talk about the challenges that you all faced as women trying to carve your own space in this game. Obviously it wasn't easy, but talk about the challenges that you may have, just briefly, because then we're going to get into the video to show the people some of the female MCs rocking the mic.
Okay. Yeah. So of course it's always the doubt, coming from the male counterparts, always, that doubtful, like, oh, are you sure you know how to do this? And, it's always that. So it's like you always have to prove yourself like 2-3 times as much as your male counterpart, or sometimes they just want a certain type of, woman, or spinning certain type of rhymes, or a certain type of look, and it's like, no, we come in all types of varieties and everything. And I mean, you could see that evident through our mixtapes, because through our I Still Love H.E.R journey, we released mixtapes at our anniversary shows, which would feature all of the artists that were performed with us at the events throughout that year. And then boom, they would be featured on a mixtape. And you could hear the mixtape, like all different types of women MCs, different varieties, different styles, different content. Like we're not like one dimensional.
Yes.
And this is the problem, like with the women in hip hop that are, or women rappers that are featured, it gets very one dimensional.
Yes.
Whatever the corporation feels needs to sell at that time, that's what they put out.
Yeah.
And that's not the reality. That's really not. So I think just with that alone, and then just the doubts from the male counterparts, sometimes the women, they're there. They love hip hop. We love it as much as the men do. But sometimes they're kind of scared to come out, because it's like, oh man, I kind of want to do this. And I mean, I would include myself in that mix, because, it's like, damn, like I'm trying to do a little rapping here, but it's like everyone's looking at me, oh yeah, you really could you rap? Who wrote that for you? And it's always something like it's like
Yeah.
no, it was me. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
you always have to prove yourself like 3, 4 times, 10 times as much, which is sucks. But I'm glad that I think now we're at a point where I when the I Still Love Her happened, it was just weird because a lot of women in hip hop movements kind of started popping up like all over the world, not just Chicago, like all over the world, the United States or whatever. And it was just weird. I think it was just a time of awakening, and we just happened to be part of that whole awakening, where now more and more women are finally getting recognized and finally, taken seriously
Yes.
when it comes
Yes.
to hip hop.
Yes. Yes.
But
I want to say this real quick. I want to thank you so much for all your hard work. You definitely have an entrepreneur spirit, and I think at the core of it all, it takes love, it takes passion, but at the same time, it takes, what's the word? You gotta be able to be willing to put yourself out there. Like you said in the beginning, people were just kind of throwing you out there. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So you at some point you got to just be willing to be thrown out there, and then once you get out there, you do your thing. So like they said, let's go.
Yeah.
And when you start getting into it, you telling the other people, let's go. Hey, I got
Right.
the records. Let's go.
Yep.
And really that's the essence of hip hop. Hip hop, it has no color barrier. It's not afraid to be seen. You know
No.
what I'm saying? So it gotta grow organically.
Yeah.
You gotta give it space to let it bloom. You can't contain it in a little box.
No, you cannot. And what's speaking of it, how it grew organically and everything is also, I think a lot of it had to do with me being from an older generation, and then Alyssia was from a younger generation. So our crowd like was one of the most diverse crowds at any hip hop show. Like you had people that were like in my generation older, and then you had people from her generation and younger. Um, and everyone just came together, and the common denominator there was hip hop.
Yes.
That was the common denominator, and everyone came to support and to represent. And there was so much networking that went on there with artists and DJs and everything. And then they started kind of doing their own thing, and that was the whole purpose of the whole thing. So that everyone could know about each other, because everyone's hiding away in their bedroom because they're like, oh, I don't want to go out there. I'm shy. These guys, they're going to come at me. They're going to doubt me or whatever. But now this is a safe space where you could come and you could represent, do your thing, and everybody's seeing it. And there's others like you, and there's others that are coming to see you because they appreciate your contributions. And then it just kind of did its thing. And other people started doing stuff. And then sometimes people would hit me up like, oh, such and such, they're starting to do this now. And they're starting to do, oh, what do you, I'm like, good. That's the thing. That's the whole purpose of this whole thing. For everybody to start doing their own thing, branching off and creating more of these types of events and more of these types of spaces that were needed, that are still needed. But yeah, there's so much stuff going on, which is awesome. And I'm just glad. But I know you got a time limit or whatever, but one of the things that was one of the biggest highlights, I think, for I Still Love Her was the block party that happened in October of 2013, where before the 606 was revamped into what is now, for those familiar with the 606 trail in Chicago, it was basically an old train track that was abandoned for many years. Now it's like a fancy, like, sidewalk, or you can ride your bike and whatever, walk your dogs or whatever it is now, do your morning jogs. But before that, like, nobody was up there, but there was walls that a lot of graffiti artists from Chicago, that they've been doing art on those walls. And one of the walls was not too far from Sub T, right off of Milwaukee Avenue in Bloomingdale, the Bloomingdale Trail. And at that time, the wall that was there and kind of fading was a wall that the Steph collaborated with. What's her name? I can't think of her name right now.
Shout out to my girl Steph, always representing on the wall.
Yeah. So the mural, it was already getting a little. It needed like a revamping, and I'm like, man, that'll be a dope spot to throw a party. That would be such a dope spot to. I mean, and it would keep it in the whole essence of like the hip hop from back in the day. You're outside, you got the train tracks. Like we literally threw a party underneath the train tracks in the alley. You know what I mean? And we had everything. Like it was an I Still Love Her outside, and we had a total of actually. I'm looking at my notes here because I have to keep notes to make sure I don't miss anything.
Yes.
So excuse
She's
my
very, very on top of it, y'all.
16. We had 16 female graffiti artists participate on that wall.
Wow.
So, and that would have never been possible, of course, without Steph. Steph was very instrumental on that end for that block party. And it was dope. We had so many artists there. Even an artist from Australia, Deb, who was just kind of like walking by and was like, "Hey, what's going on?" And she even put a piece up there. But yeah, unfortunately, the city of Chicago took the murals down, but they were up for a bit because we did get a letter from the city of Chicago the night before the event, which was on a Sunday. And they said, "Oh, don't be surprised if your murals are be removed by Monday because we're working on the 606 trail." Okay. And it's like, okay, whatever. Yeah, they lasted for almost a whole year.
Nice.
So that was dope that everybody was able to see that, the people who did. And that was just such a phenomenal event. I mean, outside, I don't know, it just felt like, I mean, it was hip hop. So I can't say it felt like hip hop because it was hip hop.
Yeah.
But that's what I think. When I think of hip hop, that's what I think about. That's what I envision. That's how I feel it should be.
Yes.
So yeah, that was a highlight. And at the end of I Still Love Her, actually the very last I Still Love Her, we kind of wanted to dabble into some other music because there's also women and other types of genres of music that are doing things. And so the very last I Still Love Her was actually a reggae edition of I Still Love Her because I love reggae as much as I love hip hop. And so that was also dope because we also had different elements of the reggae. We had the reggae soul movement, which is a dance group put together by Lady Soul, Leda, for those who are familiar. And she came out, so she did the dancing part of reggae. So, instead of the B-girls, we had the reggae, the dancing counterpart there with the reggae soul movement. And then we had DJ Kinky P, which is a reggae DJ. Shout out to Kinky P. And so she did and she's also an artist. So she did a really cool, like huge, like art piece of like a scenery of a old school type of, party, Jamaican party with the sound system and everything. It was really cool. We had Princess Kazaya, which is now like signed and working with, the Bob Marley record label, and that,
nice.
So, I mean, a lot of big stuff came out of there. And like we had artists come in from other places as well to work with I Still Love Her. Like, for example, Ciroc. I don't know if for those familiar from Ciroc from Atlanta. Her first performance in Chicago was through I Still Love Her.
Nice.
We did an event with Northeastern Illinois University, and that was her first time performing in Chicago, and that was through I Still Love Her. We also had Miss Corona come out from Detroit. For those familiar, Miss Corona was featured on the 8 Mile movie. She's over there, like she's in the scene where she's they're spitting, at the workplace or whatever outside. We had other artists from other places. We have Eva Rhymes that came out from Baltimore. We had Mama Soul that came out also from Flint, Michigan. And just others, like I can't really think. There's so many.
Yes, I know.
There's so many, but like if anyone is interested, the SoundCloud is still up. The mixtapes are there. You are welcome to listen. Those mixtapes are like put together so wonderfully by our friend DJ Aloe. And the song that you heard on that intro video or that promo video, actually, the first verse was Kick-Ass Alyssia spitting. The second verse, that was me. So, and those songs are featured on the mixtapes. That track was actually produced by DJ Aloe. And for those who know hip hop, you hear that sample from I Still Love Her.
Yes.
In there. And because it's like, common, it's like, I used to love her, but no, we still love her.
Yes. Yes.
So that was kind of our thing. And with the whole name, again, meanings behind the names, not only did it deal with the women, her, but also hearing every rhyme, and we're from Chicago, common, I used to love her, but we still love her. So, you know, it kind of all ties in together. And also shout out to DJ Aloe, as he actually was the one who came up with our logo. I had the idea for the logo, and I made like a little mock version, but at that time I wasn't too well versed in Photoshop and design. And I'm like, I don't want it to, I really want it to look crisp. And he made the logo what it is. So shout out to DJ Aloe, you know, for the logo, as well as he was the one who did the mixtapes for us. And he's awesome at blends and scratches and cuts and all that. He's like a DJ, you know. So that's what I wanted. I wanted that essence, that hip hop, that realness. So
that's what's up. That's what's up.
And I could keep going and talking, but I know you got a time limit.
Yeah. And listen, you know, my switchboard is lit up here. We already at an hour and a half. But
I know, I was nervous about going so long too.
Look, and it never fails. Once you get to talking, that this is over, right? But
yeah.
Listen, we're going to show this video, Queen Pen Cypher, I Still Love Her edition, and then we're going to wrap it up and conclude the show. But you've done such an excellent job. I really do thank you. So,
man, well, thank you for having me, man.
Yeah.
I I haven't been in the limelight, so.
Yeah. Okay. So let's check this out, y'all.
That's right. She came out here to rock with us. I Still Love Her. Today.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Queen Pen Cypher, the I Still Love Her edition. My name is LadyGemStar. We got some of the best MCs out of Chicago. We got David K. Taylor. We got Crystal the June. We got the Killer the Duchess. And we also got Lady T right here with us. Beat by DJ Aloe. Come on.
Now all hail, mighty mademoiselle. Now was a half a spot to a whole hell. I'm out here trying to push my art like it's wholesale. I'm murderous, you should snitch, you should go tell. Hey yo, what's 50,000 to a nigga like Jay? What's a tidal wave to an ex-slave? Hey yo, download my gallery, trying to earn a salary. Hustler like Sally Mae since I was born. I had the doctor screaming boo my yeah. See, I'm the coldest and I ain't even cold yet. I'm at the beach, ain't that a bitch still getting my toes wet. Madam Taylor, cussing like a sailor on a yacht though. Gold all up in my watch, hickory dickory dock. If a queen can be a thought, a king can be a knot though. Don't come for the queens then, orange will be the new black. I ain't teasing, it's alright brethren. All for be forgiven, just get on your knees and start begging and bring a few pairs of leggings.
Yo, without me, they lost. Running around, chicken head, a dog. Don't sleep, you know what, mama the boss. Look to her when they hungry, cause I feed them the truth. They latch on that for the sweet, the dirty from the source, no choice but to grow up healthy. A chapter and an apple a day, kept them off me. Mind, body, and soul, control the ether beneath the riding the wings of love against all lies for Lisa. When doves cried, I asked why nothing could tame her. Brief of love and anger, didn't try to save her. You tried to shame her, switched it up on her. What do you know? Got it right with the seed of life, you doubted it though. Might be a fight for somebody, gotta do it. Soaking up the game fluid, got me juiced up, I'm spruced up and not for the casket though. Better know I'm everlasting, bro.
Yo. Plays for days if you watch it called smoke sickness. You like my flow, I know it's mainly because it's so ridiculous. I'm a real rhyme spitter, your other's fictitious. Style malicious, gotta lick me because I'm so delicious. I finalize this, baby, there's no more traditions. I got rich flow, writing in my whole conditions. New edition, if it is a love, it's probably pimping. You off the square, fam, safe to say I caught you slipping. Banana peels for you flipping monkeys. I'm a gorilla, so this shit I'm dropping extra funky. You wanna bump me with the volume turned up to the max, I still love hearing every rhyme over every track still. But I'm going in, boy, bring a friend, so I can show you how I penetrate the hearts of men. If I get been so well, cause I don't have a fuck to land. You want them bars locked tight, call it Queen Pen.
Why we ain't done yet? Hold up, wait a minute. Let me put some lady dizzle all up in it. Been a long time coming, yo, just getting started. QPM is only for the brain-hearted. OG status, mind on fleek. Queen Pen music, haters need not speak. You can keep on dreaming, baby, we don't sleep. Got my third eye open 7 days a week. And the older I get, the closer I get to the infinite wisdom of God. Yo, I've danced with the devil on many occasions, and both of them I'm working hard. I could never repay the Most High for my life, but I live every day with a purpose. They say many are called, only few will be chosen, not easy, but it will be worth it. Let them know where you heard it. Hey yo, Queen Pen Cypher.
I still love her.
Queen Pen Cypher.
I still love her. Queen Pen Cypher. I still love her. Mwah, ha, ha, ha.
All right, there you have it. There you have it. You know, listen up. Listen, I just want to say thank you so much. And I know there's much more. You can't really cram, pretty much your life story into 2 hours. You know what I'm saying? It's just impossible. But I think for the most part, this whole hour and a half that we spent, people have gotten a chance to learn a little bit about you and what you've done. And I think that's all that matters. If we just take a little bit at a time to share our stories, to share our history, to share our heritage, our legacy. Because again, and for those that, again, if you know somebody that's interested in this history here in Chicago, please share this broadcast. Even if if they are not watching it live, they can go back and watch the playback and look at it all the way back at the beginning and watch the entire show. Share it to friends and family. And again, this is our heritage. This is our history. We're going to be, I got to get out of here real soon because I got to head back over to the museum. But LadyGemStar, I want to thank you so much. I really enjoyed your story. I wish we had a little bit more time. And you said you wasn't going to be able to even make it this long. But look at you. You still have more to share with us.
I know. It's just so much. It's so much. But I really thank you for the opportunity. To share my story and the story that I share with many others, like that Queen Pen music video, all those people, those people all came together because of I Still Love Her.
Yes.
And even though that video happened, in 2015, like a year after I Still Love Her, has stopped doing their events, they've developed friendships, they've networked, businesses, projects together. I mean, we could keep going and going. So
yes,
and that's what I wanted to happen. I wanted for the ladies to know of each other and know that we are out here and we are repping hip hop just as hard as the fellas. So
yeah. Well, listen, hey, my aunt says great job. She's even watching you. You know what I'm saying?
That's awesome. Thank you.
She says great job, girl power. You know what I'm saying? It's encouraging, and I think you have set a pace to have women influence other women. You know what I'm saying? It's contagious because it happened for us men too. We fed off of each other. The spirit of what we displayed fed off because we're all artists, and it fed off it and motivated us we see this guy doing that, and we're like, okay, let me practice. Let me get my shine. So it's no different for the women, and we're glad that you have become a part of that because we are cementing our legacy for Chicago, and it's good so that when we're no longer here, other generations that's coming up can get to see and learn about what we've done in this movement of Chicago hip hop. So peace and love. I tip my hat off to you.
Oh man, thank you.
Keep up the great work. We'll be looking for any other future projects that you may be do. Hey, you may even write you a book one day. You know what I'm saying? Hey, you never know,
Hey, anything is possible, I mean, I never thought I would be in an interview like this anyway, ever in my whole life. And here I am. So,
yes.
Things happen.
So listen, you all, we are out of time. So we're going to conclude the show, but we should be back in a few moments for my next guest. And if not, we'll be over at the Hip Hop Museum, the Chicago Hip Hop Heritage Museum, and we'll be kicking it off the rest of the night. So great show. Until we see each other again, this is the RYC Live Show. It's been great. See y'all next time. One love, Artistic and LadyGemStar. Peace.